Okay, it's just gone 7:15 in the morning here in Paris. Flo Villamino is joining me here in the studio. Hi there.
Hi, Kat.
You've been looking through the papers for us, and we're going to start off with a string of new anti-terrorism measures that were announced here in France yesterday.
Absolutely, that's getting a lot of attention in the press. So this string of measures to basically boost human and material resources for the police and intelligence services. Now, Le Figaro, the right-leaning paper, applauds these measures coming from the socialist government, saying it's going in the right direction. But it's not enough. Of course, the Le Figaro has some issues with the measures put forward by the socialist government. The main thing is that it points out that the police has been reinforced in its anti-terrorism capacity, but the justice system is lagging behind, and that's what it says on the front page here. It regrets the fact that there haven't been any major changes to the penal code in the wake of the Charlie Hebdo attacks. It calls for tougher laws. Now, it must be said that Le Figaro is not at all a big fan of the justice minister, Christiane Taubira, and once again, the right-wing paper really accuses her of being too soft, too permissive, especially in French prisons, which Le Figaro says they're known to be hotbeds of radical Islam.
Okay, well, let's look at some comments made by probably the most prominent centre-right politician here in France, or best known internationally anyway, Nicolas Sarkozy. He's now leader of the UMP party. He's spoken out on TV.
That's right. Now, he spoke on France 2, it's a major channel here in France, and he really lashed out against the government. So you can see this article in Le Parisien saying that Sarkozy broke the truce, the so-called political unity that we saw in the wake of the Charlie Hebdo attacks. Well, it didn't last so long, according to Le Parisien. Now, one thing that he said was that he called on the government to immediately reestablish tax-exempt overtime pay for police officers, basically to encourage them to work more because that way they'll earn more.
This was one of his major policies of his presidency, wasn't it? Work more to earn more.
Work more to earn more. But police unions are quite skeptical because they say, after all, it was under Sarkozy's watch that this overtime pay went away for police officers. And on top of that, these police unions say, you know, this is going to cost a lot of money. Who's going to pay for all this?
Okay, so they're actually hiring more police officers rather than getting the current ones to work longer hours. Okay, well, Sarkozy's also criticised the Prime Minister, Manuel Valls. This is about saying a geographic and social apartheid has sprung up here in France. Apartheid's a very loaded word, isn't it?
That's right. Now, the Prime Minister drew praise for having the courage to use this term.
I think it's something that a lot of people in France talk about, isn't it? Social divisions.
Social divisions, etc., but it's not necessarily something high-profile politicians
and not
will
with
admit.
This one word, yes.
This very, as you said, very loaded word. So, as I said, the left has applauded the Prime Minister for having the courage to say this. Of course, the right has criticized him. So that's exactly what Sarkozy did yesterday. He said that he was appalled by Manuel Valls. How could he have used such a loaded term? Well, what's interesting is Le Figaro, so once again, the right-wing paper, says it's funny that Sarkozy should criticize Manuel Valls for using such a controversial word, because after all, Sarkozy is quite known for ruffling feathers with his own words. And you can see Le Figaro reminds people of this word Karcher. When he was interior minister, Sarkozy upset a lot of people because he promised to clean up the suburbs with a high-pressure hose, a Karcher. So according to this editorial, actually, in Le Figaro, both Manuel Valls and Nicolas Sarkozy have the same political strategy. It's basically to use these very loaded catchphrases as a way to make people think that, you know, they're telling the truth, they're talking true, they're not these politicians. But in the end, it's the same strategy. So Nicolas Sarkozy can't really criticize Manuel Valls.
Okay, a little bit of politicking, perhaps, yes. Well, we're going to move on to L'Opinion, the sort of pro-business paper. They've actually got a somewhat alarming report about French jihadists.
That's right. Let's take a look at the front page of L'Opinion. They talk about former French soldiers who have reconverted, redeployed into jihad. Now, according to L'Opinion, French intelligence have identified 9 former French soldiers who have joined jihadist groups, and some of these former French soldiers, according to L'Opinion, could be fighting in Syria. So if we take a look at this cartoon here, what you can see is the defense minister, Jean-Yves Le Drian. He's talking to these 3 soldiers, and he's saying, okay, you keep an eye on civilians, you keep an eye on police, and you keep an eye on your 2 colleagues. Now, according to L'Opinion, one of these former French soldiers could actually be from the special forces. Now, none of this has been confirmed, so it's all hypothesis. And not only that, but he may have been in contact with the Kouachi brothers. The Kouachi brothers are the ones that carried out that attack on Charlie Hebdo, and he might have been in contact with them in Yemen. Now, none of this has been confirmed, as I said, but it's quite alarming coming from the people.
And those investigations into the Kouachi brothers' potential accomplices are still continuing on, aren't they? So perhaps more details might actually come out in the days and weeks to come. Right now, we're going to have a look at something that the President has been talking about. We haven't mentioned him really so far in your press review. He's been talking about secularism in schools. Secularism, that famed and valued French issue.
That's right, laïcité, one of the sacred pillars
Very sacred.
of the French Constitution. So he was talking to teachers yesterday, and he vowed to, well, help them teach laïcité in schools, because if there's one thing that's really come to light in the wake of these terrorist attacks is that secularism, laïcité, is really under threat. So what you can see here is the front page of Libération. It's talking about how secularism is cracking at the seams, and you can see Marianne, the symbol of France, ready to pick a fight there. The education minister, Najat Vallaud-Belkacem, has said she's going to provide teachers with a secularism kit to help them teach students. Now, Libé says there are limits, though, to this very important value, because after all, it's an ideal for us to attain. It's not necessarily a reality to impose. Real secularism means having a sense of compromise. You can see here this word, that's their editorial. They say it shouldn't be about colliding with people's beliefs, and it shouldn't be used as an anti-Muslim weapon. What it is an ideal for us to attain.
So the idea of taking religion out of public daily life so that people have the space to have their own religion.
Absolutely.
Okay, very interesting concepts, I'm sure, for the French teachers to get to grips with and their students. Thanks very much for now. Flo Villamino, I'll be back a bit later on looking through the international papers for us as well.